Hi, this is John Sarver, and welcome to my solar story, sponsored by the Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association and the Michigan Solar Users Network. And tonight we have Brett Little, who's going to talk to us about his own home. He's a program manager at the Green Home Institute. And boy, Brett does about as much education as anybody in the state about green homes and energy efficiency, renewable resources. But tonight he's going to talk about his own home. His own home is GreenStar, Pearl Certified Platinum, DOE Home Energy Score of 10. And he's aiming for zero carbon, and he's going to talk a little about what that means, but also how did he pay for his improvements, and he's going to focus on solar and some battery trade-offs, and talk a little about financing options too. So with that, let me turn it over to you, Brett. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you, John. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. I'm glad to be on one of these, and real excited to share what I'm doing here. So yeah, I'm with the nonprofit, the Green Home Institute. We're headquartered in Grand Rapids, and we're a nonprofit. Our mission is to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. So I thought I should probably do this in my own house because I keep talking about it all the time. So I am excited to track some data, share my story, and continue to share it as I learn more, because I just sort of completed my project now, and I want to get the word out. So everyone can see my screen, the picture of the house, right? Perfect. So, my overall goals, honestly, I'll just be completely honest. I mean, my number one goal was that I bought a house a couple of years ago, and everything just started breaking. I mean, everything. And to me, it was exciting because I wanted to replace it with more efficient things. And I probably would have replaced it anyway. But the fact is because it was breaking, I felt justified that I could do it. So instead of tearing it out. So, I mean, that's honestly what I was doing. The second thing is that I wanted to achieve some green certifications, because that was what we promote. That's what's important. I wanted to find immediate return on investment for solar. I wanted to go all electric, zero carbon, and inspire others to do this. So that was my goal. So one of the programs we used is the GreenStar Homes certification. It's an mostly existing homes program, new construction program that we help administer. And so I'm excited to have achieved platinum in this. This goes beyond energy. It looks at water, health, materials, place. And it's available for other people to get certified. And I achieved the electrified living badge in it for going all electric. Also, the national program called Pearl, very thankful for them working with me to do promotion and helping me get my home certified platinum through their program, which helped me boost appraisal value. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And I got their nice little solar badge and home energy score badge too. So I'm thankful for them, and you can check them out for energy efficiency certifications for your project, and solar really helps. So what did I do? From a solar standpoint, I didn't even know Panasonic made solar. I wasn't looking for Panasonic solar, and Green Panel, who was my installer, kind of tipped me off to them, and I was like, that's really interesting. I'm really excited about that. So I've got the Panasonic HIT, and that's at 3.96 or 330 watts. So there's 12 panels up there on my garage. And I'm told that it is 177 degrees south with I think that thing auto-corrected, but it should have said tilt 25 degrees. All turnkey installed by Green Panel, 25-year warranty system. And then also following that up is my Tesla Powerwall 2. So about 13.5 kW, 100% depth of discharge, 90% round trip efficiency. I hope that means something to you all. I'm still learning. Power at 7 kW and peaks at 5 kW. I highlighted the amperage because when I was setting this thing up, they were like, oh, we're not going to back your electric stove up because it's 4 amps and that's bad. And I'm like, so I just can't cook during a power outage? I'm like, that's probably not terrible, but okay. And they're like, yeah, we're not going to. And then we had a further conversation. And they're like, okay, your stove probably doesn't really draw 4 amps unless you fire up all 4 burners and crank up the oven at the same time. They're like, just don't do that. And I'm like, all right, because I'd like to still cook during an outage. I'd like to, continue to operate like normal, which that's why I'm paying for a battery. So that was interesting. And the system has a 10-year warranty. Now, to achieve those green certifications and do everything that I believe in, I did way more than solar and battery. I'm not going to talk a lot about that today, but here's sort of my whole home upgrade that I did. A ducted air source heat pump system, which draws heat out of the air. Even last week, when it was negative 10 degrees out or so, it was drawing heat out of the air. If you can believe it or not, there is heat in the air when it is negative 10 degrees or we'd all be dead. So using all electricity to draw heat out of the air in the dead of winter. It's a cold weather climate system. I got a heat pump water heater system. I did duct sealing, pipe wrap. I have an energy recovery ventilator, which allows my home to breathe. I'm here working all the time, and I need to have fresh air ventilation so I don't fall asleep and I can talk to you all. So this helps me do that. Energy Star bath fans, a Cosmos smart ventilation system from our friends at Panasonic, which communicates with my ventilation system and turns it up and down as I need more ventilation. A vented hood range so I don't make myself sick when I cook. A humidifier because it gets dry and my knuckles crack. Energy Star washer, dishwasher, condensing dryer, so it's all electric, it doesn't have a vent in it. Motion sensor LED lighting, night lights. I had a really annoying street light that the previous owner put up that, was really bad to look at. It shot light off in all directions, so we shut that down. I actually would be talking to you a year ago if it wasn't for this, but I live in an area that's having water quality and running out of water quantity issues. And so I got concerned that as we run out of water, I might actually face water quality issues. It's going around the entire state. So actually, I had this whole zero energy project planned last year, and I was supposed to have it all done. And then we're like, we better do water. And so we were investigating rainwater catchment, decided we just couldn't spring for that. But it derailed my whole project an entire year. And then COVID hit and slowed everything down. Everything just got way backlogged. So that's why I'm talking to you now and not last year's, because we wanted to make sure we had healthy water. It was really important to us. Water saving devices. I highlighted the wrong one, but yeah, reducing our water consumption, a smart meter. We put on some air sealers on our doors because they're all kind of cracked and leaking. And then radon. We actually have a radon issue here. And so again, down in my basement, working down here, don't want to get lung cancer. So very important to put that in. So that was our whole home upgrade package. And so someone asked me, yeah, I have a standard electric stove. I do not have induction. I wish, but the stove came with the house, and I'm like, I'm doing all this, so I might as well just keep the stove as it is because it seems to work just fine. So good question. So when we bought our house, we wanted to go net zero. We knew we did. The house, yeah, great question. The house, thank you, it was good timing. 2003, it was built in 2003. So it was built to IECC. It was almost built to today's energy code, IECC 2012-ish. And so it was really good that the builder put in all these air sealing and insulation features. They just used sort of the worst standard HVAC mechanical equipment, and that's easier to change. But the shell is very difficult to change. It would have been very expensive. I wouldn't have been able to do my full project had they not done a really good job on the insulation and air sealing. So I was really fortunate there. But we still did everything. So when I bought the house, we did a test in, and we encourage everyone to do this before even going solar. Maybe there's some other things you want to consider. So blower door tests, energy audit, home energy score, get a green home inspection done. The auditor's going to look at all these features of your home, and they're going to say, okay, what are the things that need to be fixed? When can you fix them later? And how can you improve? And that's very important because, solar plays a role in this, but you can save a lot more energy and be much more comfortable doing these other items first, which solar, quite frankly, isn't going to help you be healthier, and it's not going to help you be more comfortable. And then to take it even one step further, we do green home inspections here. And so I did it on my own house. And we look at all this list of non-energy benefits, such as air quality and ventilation and radon and water opportunities. For older homes, we look at lead and asbestos issues. knob and tube wiring, landscaping, and durability issues where water might cause problems in homes. And then lastly, we try to help people look for solar. So I, immediately, the second I got this house, I'm like geeked out. I'm like, all right, I'm going to punch it into NREL PV watts calculator for free, and I'm going to size it up. And I've done this for people professionally to help them out, so I knew how to use it. And I used it to self-assess my own solar before I even called contractors up. So then I knew that if they tried to give me the runaround, I would have some numbers to start out with to know, it's not perfect, but I would know a ballpark range of how much solar I could add to my house and what my limitations and benefits were. So how did we do? So when we tested in, we used the tool called the DOE Home Energy Score, and we're Home Energy Score partners, and we deliver it across the state. So we used it on my own house. And it's a 1 through 10 rating, like in miles per gallon for a home. And we scored out 7 on the system, 5 being the average Michigan home. And, the system tells you, if you do these improvements, you can get your home up to a 10 and save this much energy and this much money. And then it kind of tells you how you're doing with, electricity versus gas, and then tells you, here are the things you should consider repairing now and things you should consider doing, when they break down, and here's how to do it. And so what we did is we sat down with our home energy score assessor and we started planning our project. And during our planning, we said, here are our goals. Here are the things we want to do. Go all electric, use heat pumps, blah, blah, blah. And so then we come back and, you can see here by the package we put together, we now are saving roughly $600 a year in utility costs. That includes the solar savings, and over 50 BTUs of energy a year. And so you can see the other projections it gave us was only to save maybe 200 if we were to just update to traditional gas systems. But instead, we switched over from gas to electric heat pump systems, and then, of course, included the solar, and then dropped our total home energy usage, no gas, down to 13,000 kilowatt hours a year. And that's pre-solar. So that's before we put the solar on. And then you can see when we're making these decisions and helping other people make these decisions, you say, here on the left is where your home is at. Here on the right are the sustainability features that you might want to achieve. And, we can try all sorts of different strategies to achieve those things, with you on your home to make the most informed decision. And then just here's some more examples of what the tool does. It says, okay, if this is what you're going to do to upgrade your house, here's where your new energy usage per square foot is going to be. Here's what your electric usage will be. And then here's what it'll be with PV. And then the real cool thing is that it tells you, here's what your home is going to cost, but here's what the average cost is of a home in your area who hasn't done anything. And so that's really helpful for appraisals, which is what you use to get value. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then once we have all that, and we work with our energy auditing professional, and again, we encourage everyone to follow this pathway, then we bring in the solar professional and say, okay, here is what we have. What do you have? Show us your assessments. And so this is Green Panel's breakdown for us. Now, they assumed that we weren't going all electric. They assumed we're the traditional home that has gas systems. And that's fine. I understand that. That's what they're used to here in Michigan specifically. But at least, they gave us some really good numbers on what we could expect from solar production and how much cost savings there would be and all that. And then from there, we were able to make some assumptions. And quite frankly, COVID-19 did put a little bit of a change in our numbers, because what we found is that being home all the time and working from home all the time, we were able to estimate that there was about a 30% bump in our electric usage just by being here all the time on average. And so we estimated that at about 60 kilowatt hours a month. So we needed to factor that in now into our new models and our energy usage. And so the home energy score was, it's really accurate. We find it to be super accurate to actual usage, but it wasn't designed for pandemics and people being home all the time. And I mean, in fairness, you couldn't have expected it to be. So we kind of assume, across the board, people are, 10 to 20 to 30% maybe using more electric energy now. Gas really wouldn't change that often by being home a lot. And so we just added a little bit of cushion there, assumed maybe nearly 14,000 kilowatt hours a year during a prolonged shutdown that we'll expect for the rest of this year. And then here's where we'll be at after we apply our solar. And what we did with the solar is we kind of took, we took green panels numbers, which were pretty assertive or aggressive, not aggressive, assertive numbers. And we took the DOE's numbers, which were a little less, a little more conservative. And I just kind of averaged them together and came up with this. So, and that's okay to do. You just, you try to find the best information as you can. And then from there, we worked with our lender and we helped them get appraisers trained in green. There's actual green appraisal trainings that you can take. And so we helped, so the Appraisal Institute back in 2019 came in and did appraisal trainings in Michigan, and we got a bunch of appraisers there. And then we were able to have a stronger pool of green certified appraisers that we could pull from when we go to do our mortgage, so that we knew we had someone who at least, knew what they were talking about to evaluate solar and energy efficient homes. And so we got our appraiser assigned. They were a green certified appraiser. And we worked with Pearl to produce a green residential energy efficiency addendum. So if you're ever using a mortgage process or building a new home or whatever, you need to make sure that you get the green addendum to your appraiser so that they can appropriately give you the value to help you pay for your solar. It's very important. And so what the appraiser did is they, oh, there goes my motion sensor. It's blocked by a plant. Sorry. It only does that because there's something in the way of it. It never normally does that. But anyway, so what they did is we worked with Pearl, and Pearl assessed our home for us. And then they gave the appraiser a report, and we gave the appraiser all those things I just showed you, all of our energy reports. And again, this is in the beginning phase while we're trying to get funding for our project. And, the appraiser, interestingly enough, they looked at the Pearl report and they looked at Green Panel's solar assessment based on what Pearl said about it. And they were able to determine what they called a market capitalization rate of a formula that they took our estimated monthly utility bills savings of an average of 82 a month. They multiplied it. This is the appraiser. They multiplied it by 100, which they told me was the value of commodities like gold and oil and now water. And then that's how they determined our value of our home once we add the solar to it. It was the kind of craziest thing that I'm still trying to understand. And so they took that and then they looked, appraisers look at comparables. So they looked at, there happened to be 3 other homes. We just got lucky on our street that all had solar, before I had it. So I was jealous. And they had just either refinanced or got built. And because of that, they showed up in the appraisal comps. And the appraiser basically told me, I interviewed him. I said, look, how much value are we getting? How are you determining it? Are you willing to kind of give us your secrets, right? Appraisers are kind of secretive. And they said, yeah, so, we've got the homes. There's 3 homes on the block. That's good. If there were no other solar homes, we probably couldn't help you out because there has to be other solar homes. And they had to have been sold or refinanced. And then they said, we did this convoluted formula here where we multiplied your energy savings by the price of gold. And now we gave you a 3% bump in the value of your home, which gave me enough money to borrow what I needed to do all those items, that wish list I showed you. Now, I was disappointed that they didn't incorporate any of the other energy savings things that I did. None of the other green certifications. They didn't care about any of that because there were no comps in the area. But the solar, they did give value. So that's really, really exciting to see. But I don't think an average appraiser would have done that had we not, got someone trained and educated in it. And so, so that was exciting to see. And I'm, trying to get the word out about that when people are trying to finance solar, is that you need to get them, this type of information and get it to them early, so they can make, these informed decisions. And that solar does inherently have some value. And of course, we got value from having broken systems to brand new systems. These said there was value in that, and that, that's just normal. But the fact that they were more energy efficient or heat pumps, They didn't care about any of that. And so the other cool thing is that we worked with our lender here in Michigan, United Bank. And one of the reasons we worked with them is they were open to using something called the Green Choice mortgage from Freddie Mac. So it's not their mortgage, it's Green Choice. And basically what a Green Choice mortgage allows you to do is extend your borrowing power by financing green and energy efficient and solar renovations and retrofits. And so Green Choice mandates that you have a green appraisal done. It's a requirement that has to happen. And so we were really excited. We had our project all set us up, ready to go with this Green Choice mortgage last year. And then again, this whole water thing that we had to deal with pretty much derailed it. And we decided to add some more things to our project, and then determined that the downside to the Green Choice mortgage is that we could only finance so much, and you could only do so many things. And so we ended up just going the traditional construction loan route, which worked out pretty well because I GC'd my own project, sort of as the builder of it. Not everybody can do that, but it worked out and it allowed us to borrow the funds. So I want to say Green Choice is still a great avenue because it was going to give us all the money we needed to finance the solar and a few other things. It's just that we had to add in these water systems and it tipped it over the amount we could buy. So how did I pay for this? Our overall addition jumped up to $250 a month to do that whole big wish list I showed you, including the solar and the batteries. Now, I want to, like I said, my goal was to show you that it's very possible to basically refinance your home now or buy a new home and use the refinancing mechanism to basically make it a wash for just solar only. And I believe I had achieved that a goal originally. And then like I said, we shifted and added some new things. But what we found using the Freddie Mac Green Choice loan with the appraisal is that we would have only paid, had we just done solar only, we would have paid an additional $50 in our mortgage, a 30-year mortgage, but saved $65 a month in energy bills under the original package that we had. And so that is the goal, is that the concept is that there's people out there and interest rates are low and home values are high. And my argument is that all of us right now today, if you can't figure out how to pay for solar, this is one strategy you can use. Or if you're buying a new home, this is a great time to incorporate it because the additional cost for it is saved immediately in a 30-year mortgage, especially 15 and 20, maybe, it's hard to say. But, a lot of people don't have extra money to spend a month. So, but you can shift that debt from the utility company over to the mortgage. And again, you'll build equity because you don't build equity paying off the utility company. Now, we ended up tossing in the battery because we knew net metering, but because our project got delayed a year, we knew net metering was going to be eliminated. We knew that the tax credit was being diminished. And again, none of these numbers incorporate the tax credit. I didn't even want to include the tax credit in my numbers. So we knew all this was going to happen. And so we're like, we should probably shift to a battery because first of all, I live in an area where if the power goes out, I also lose water and it's really frustrating. And we lose power, every now and then throughout the summer. And I didn't want to have a gas generator. I cut the gas line. So for me, it was really important that I actually knocked out half of the solar I had originally spec'd and said, I'm going to do a battery instead. I'm going to charge that battery up in the day and then use it at night to stay off the grid as much as I can in the summertime. And so with the battery, that bumped us up to an additional $104 with no known savings in energy, at least not yet. I mean, there's not really a way to save any additional energy. So, we're paying a little bit more than what our extra mortgage cost is, but now we're getting reliable backed up power and it has a lot of value to us. And so we were excited about being able to achieve this and hoping to show that, other folks can do it. Now, on to the zero carbon goal. So the concept is, we originally, my project was supposed to load my house up with solar and we wanted to be an official net zero home. So that would mean we would generate as much energy as we produced over the course of a year. we would generate most of that energy in the summer and then spend most of our time buying from the grid in the winter. And that was our original plan, and we had it all put together. Then we started thinking, okay, we want the battery backup, we want uptime during outages, and with consumer taking away net metering, it makes it probably not financially viable anymore to just fully send solar to the grid. So now we're going to start buying renewable energy credits, and we're going to probably buy two different types. First, we're going to go over to our friends at Bonneville. I realize their name is not written on here, but it's Bonneville out of Bonneville Environmental Foundation, BEF, out of Oregon. And we're going to buy about 6,000 kilowatt hours a year, or $48 worth of Green certified wind turbine and geothermal credits. And then we're going to look to Consumers Energy and their Solar Gardens program, which is pretty expensive to use for all of your net zero or your zero carbon needs. We're going to buy a little bit into that, maybe like 3 blocks, so like $27 a month. And that's really cool because we're getting solar directly from Grand Valley, from Western Michigan University. Preferably, we'd rather do local community solar, but it's just not allowed currently on the consumers or DTE grids. Some people in Lansing have it, and up in Traverse City have it, and that's awesome. Fortunately, I do not have access to any kind of community solar, but this is as close as we can get. So here's a crazy convoluted spreadsheet that we have from the USGBC, United States Green Building Council, that we worked with them to create for people who want to go zero carbon. And it uses an EPA program to sort of evaluate how efficient and how much carbon each of your energy usage puts onto the grid or takes from the grid. So we made an assumption over the course of a year, and of course it wouldn't work this way, but on average, over the course of a year, we'll use just over 1,000 kilowatt hours a month. Here's how much we'll produce. I mean, this was actual numbers I took from Green Panel. And then here's our carbon offsets that we're going to buy to go zero carbon. And so you can see that on the left, here's kind of what we're going to produce from solar carbon. Again, this is average, so it'll be different every month, but I just averaged it out, and we'll see, because we're just on March 1, we're going to start buying carbon offsets, and we're going to start tracking our year from there. So here's what we anticipate from Solar Gardens. Here's what we anticipate Bonneville Environmental. That there's no guessing there. You just buy ahead of time how many credits you want. And overall, we're expecting maybe paying $400 a year to call ourselves zero carbon. And that's important to be able to do. And it will help my company go zero carbon. It'll help my wife's small business go zero carbon, and that's kind of trendy to do. So that's what we're going to do. So we like to say net zero in the summer, advocacy in the winter. So the whole idea is that we'll probably be pretty much zero energy in the summer, barely ever use the grid unless there's a big problem. And you never know these days anymore. And so, but the reality is it's impossible to go net zero in the summer. You're always going to rely on that grid. And that's why you have to buy the offsets. And so we always, my motto is kind of like, if I spend my time in the winter advocating for things that can make change so I can be truly zero carbon, and that everyone can be zero carbon in the winter, anyone, no matter, their race, their location, their income, everyone should be able to benefit from this. And so this is a small list of things that we'd like to see happen, but I'm sure there's a million other things. And so, how can I spend some time during my downtime in the winter getting involved and making sure that eventually all my winter energy that I pull off the grid will be 100% clean and, make the planet better. So I want to get into questions. We're doing a whole YouTube series on everything that I'm doing. So I'm going to go really into detail, take you through my houses, more data comes. We got the first video up there, and I'm hoping to launch one based on financing now that I put this together here soon. But you can follow us at Green Home Institute's YouTube channel. We have lots of cool stuff on there, but I'll be updating my journey on there too. And I thank you all for tuning in, and I can stick around for some questions.
Hey, thank you, Brad. Why don't you stop the screen sharing so we can see everybody? And then if you have a question, just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask Brett.
Do you, Brett, I'm just curious, do you work with people who are interested in getting, the process of getting a net zero energy home for their own?
Yeah, we have played some consulting role, or at least facilitated others to help and played a role in that. And we actually certify homes to net zero, and we're launching a zero carbon certification that I'm piloting on my own home first.
Okay.
Go ahead, John, with your question.
Do you have tracking on your solar? And if not, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can track if it's fixed to a garage, to my knowledge anyway, unless there's something I'm not understanding.
Yeah, let me mention too, I can only see 25 people on a screen, and we got about 35 people here. So if you don't get recognized, just use the reaction button in the bottom. If you go down to reactions, you'll be able to see that you can, there's a button there called raise hand. So you can use that to ask a question. Go ahead, Judith. Go ahead, Judith. You're muted.
Okay, I should be on now.
Yeah, you're okay. Go ahead.
I have in-floor heating and it's heated by gas. Is there any way I could do some with electric and then as the backup the gas, or do you have to go all the way one or the other?
Yeah, Mitsubishi just released a hybrid system, and they're one of our sponsors, just to be upfront with you. But they just released a hybrid system where you can do the radiant dual fuel. And I'll be honest with you, that's one area where I struggle. We actually just did a webinar 2 weeks ago with Sean from Redwood Energy out of California, fully focused on radiant electric heat pump boiler systems. And a lot of it's over my head because there's a lot of air to water source technology, but it is coming. It's still kind of new, but it is coming, and there are dual fuel options. So
That's going to be expensive, and I already spent enough on the whole system. But okay, thank you.
Go ahead,
Brett,
John.
David Arnosti here. I have a question regarding your renovation on heating. Did you consider geothermal instead of air heat exchange?
thank you. I rammed right through and missed that part. So during the energy modeling process, we compared geothermal to air source heat pumps. And here's what we found. First of all, the tax credit was really iffy back then. Just so you know, the 26% tax credit for geothermal is back for 2 years. So tell all your friends. But back then it was really iffy. And so that kind of, was like, and then we looked, and we would have had to have killed a bunch of trees if we would have done the geo the cheaper way, horizontal. And so we're like, we can do it vertical, but it would cost $5,000 more. And then we looked at the energy models, and the models came back and said we would save 1,000 kilowatt hours a year to go from to just do geo versus air source. So the geo saved 1,000 kilowatts. And that sounds like a lot, but if you think about 1,000 kilowatt hours in the fact that you could just add more solar, it was way more cost effective and easier to do that. So for us, our decision, it made more sense to go air source heat pump. But now that the tax credit's back, again, depending on your setup, geothermal might make a lot more sense now. So,
Go ahead, John.
Thanks, John. Brett, why did you decide to get your energy credits from two different sources?
yeah, it's kind of like, I look at renewable energy credits like the stock market, right? It's like, diversify your portfolio. I don't know. I really want to go with all of consumers local solar. It sounds really interesting to me, but it would cost me so much money to do their program. And they do pay you a little bit back, but I think it's like a 1/3 ratio. So like for every $3 you spend, you get $1 back from them. It's kind of just a feel good thing. And I appreciate what they're doing, but it's just not viable. And then Bonneville is great, but just buying straight up, renewable energy credits where I just pay you some money and then off it goes and I don't know where it goes. I don't like that either. So I'm kind of stuck between, I wanted to kind of diversify it a little bit and make it affordable for me, see how both of them work out. And then hopefully if it will be in a future soon enough where I can invest on solar on my neighbor's home or a low income housing project in Grand Rapids, which really makes an impact for people who need it.
Go ahead, Dale.
Hey, Brett, could you talk about how your Tesla Powerwall is programmed? Like when does it charge and discharge, and how's that working?
Yeah, that's a great point. So I'm kind of just still messing around with it, but you can kind of see, like today, a little bit of the green color is the Tesla Powerwall, and then the solar is the other color. And so, like a cloud will come out, right, and then you'll see that if the Tesla Powerwall has enough energy, which I currently have it set to maintain 60% threshold, it'll like peak up if it's above that to take care of that cloud, right? And then just zip back down. And then I did activate the storm watch on it. So it's a pretty cool feature where if the weather says a storm is coming, which I think it's a little, a storm could be like a flurry, but it'll ramp it up to 100%. And so I'm going to watch and see how good that is. But yeah, the idea is that if I can get on a time of use rate with consumers, and I don't know if I'm allowed to do that while also being, I was able to get into net metering. I almost missed it by a hair, but I don't know if they allow you to do both. And so if I can, and I have a call into them, I'm waiting to hear back, then I'll set the battery up based on their time of use patterns. It looks like I can program it to do that. So I'm still learning a lot about it, but it is, it's pretty interesting. So
I know you can with DTE, you can be on the time of use, although you're on net metering still. So probably you still can with consumers.
Yeah. I mean, I called them up and they said the operator said they didn't know I had to talk to the net metering department, and I'm sure they'll call me.
You might have to read the rules from the Public Service Commission and tell the power company what the rules are. You might get a different answer depending on who you reach.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You're right. You get different answers depending on who you talk to or on what day, right? Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Hi, Brett. I have net metering, and I also have the time of use pricings with Consumers Energy.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, perfect.
So yes, you can do that. So Brett, how do I decide what kind of air source heat pump to get?
That's a good question. We're in Michigan, so I think I assume you're in Michigan.
Yes.
It gets cold here, and so I highly recommend a cold weather climate air source heat pump. And so, what does that mean? It doesn't really have much of a meaning. Consumers Energy has helped try to define what it means, which is helpful. I know for sure Mitsubishi, they kind of came out of the gate being the leaders in that. But other manufacturers, Carrier now, and Dankin and Fujitsu have all followed suit. So that basically ensures that thing's going to continue to operate down to the negative temperatures. And then, if you're concerned, you can, of course, back it up with electric strip heaters, or if you're really concerned, you can do a dual fuel system. And if you're going to do a dual fuel, Detson is great because they just got a really good product that works really well and integrates, gas and electric really well together from what we've seen. But yeah, you do sacrifice a little bit of efficiency for the cold weather systems, but I think that's worth it, especially when you experience things like we did last week. So,
Hey, Brad, related to the heat pump issue, there's different efficiencies for different models of heat pumps. And how did you decide what was kind of the optimum efficiency level for your situation?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of trade-offs. Some of the trade-offs are, again, is it cold weather? Is it not? So I had to go with cold weather. And then the next trade-off is the size. And you don't want to oversize your system because then it just runs all the time and it's not very efficient. And so we wanted to make sure we got a right size system. So I did a heating and cooling calculation on my house and cross-checked it with the HVAC contractor. And then based on my size ratio, I had sort of these limit of, and the cold weather climate, I kind of had a limit of like 2 or 3 choices I could make in the cost range. And so kind of pick the middle of the ground, middle efficiency, middle cost to meet my budget. So
Go ahead, Dave. Dave Friedrichs, unmute yourself. You can go
Yep.
ahead.
Okay, I'm curious, Brett, if you have any experience with Warm Floor out of Missouri, building a net zero place right now in Ypsilanti, kind of low income,
Cool.
site office about 1,000 feet, but Step Warm Floor, warmfloor.com is the website, but we're going to use that for all the heat. It's all, DC, so it's 24 volt, and we're using one of the Next Tech Power, they call them PHDs, Power Hub devices, to keep DC for the whole place.
Mhm.
And of course, we've got a nice roof, so the solar is going to be close to, up toward 20 kilowatts. But it will handle the heat, and it's any familiarity with it?
No, I've heard of warm board, but I haven't heard of warm floor. I assume it's a radiant kind of panel.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
20, it's just DC. The DC side is kind of what we're focusing on.
Yeah, no, I haven't. And it's heat pump powered, or?
No, it's going to be electric. It's all electric.
Oh, it's a resistance?
Yeah, and it's just DC 24 volt. And take a look at it. Just warmfloor.com. You'll also see that they have snow melt. They have Step snow melt. We're going to beta test that on the back of solar panels. It goes across the lowest 10 inches or so of the panel. So you got gravity working for you. And then as long as you can put 13 watts out when you need to, you'll melt the snow and the ice on the panel, and you'll slide, and gravity will work as it already does, usually on the top part of the panel, to clear it. And we think that could be of use to those with roof top solar. So we'll test it here in this next cycle and see if it's something we can recommend to our customers.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out. I haven't heard of it. Thank you.
Sounds good.
Dave,
Okay.
is that you're thinking about using that flooring resistance heated flooring material and putting it behind the solar panel along the bottom edge?
It's a little bit different. There's different products. Step Warm Floor has different, but it's DC. You can run it on DC, or you can run it on breakers from your service panel. It can go either way. And they have, it's pretty, everything so far with the company is looking pretty good. And so we're giving it a try right now.
Okay, all right. Thanks.
Brett, when you start adding in heat pumps and other electrical uses, I know sometimes it could be an issue that the existing electrical panel isn't big enough to kind of handle the load. Was that an issue for you guys? And I guess upgrading an electrical panel adds some dollars to the project cost.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, and we got lucky. We had a decommissioned hot tub when we bought the house, and there were 2 additional breakers there. And so there happened to just be enough for us to do what we needed, because yeah, it can be cheap, and depending on how old and outdated your system is or small, you could be upwards of talking $5,000 add-on to the electric costs. And so, yeah, absolutely. We got lucky, and others, that could set your back back quite a bit, or have to make you decide, how many things you want to be electric. So.
Okay, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, so what was the SEER rating of the air source heat pump that you put in? And do you know the coefficient of performance at different temperatures?
Yeah, I do, well, I do not remember the coefficients off the top of my head. The SEER rating is 17 and the HSPF is 9.7.
Yeah, so there were more efficient systems available. I mean, you can get a SEER 20 and 24, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
And yeah, and that was the concern, is I didn't see any that came in as a, you know, cold weather climate. And I don't have a backup strip heater here either, so we're living on the edge.
I think that strip heater is what got Texas in trouble. All those air sourced air conditioners that were optimized for air conditioning, when it got to a certain temperature, the resistors all turned on, and it was like having a short in every single house in the state of Texas.
Yeah, those strip heaters, first of all, they've done a bad disservice to Geo, because people are going around tearing out Geo, and it's really just because the strip heaters kick on. Has nothing to do with the Geo. And then we've seen a couple of projects with air source heat pumps, and they've got the strip heater, and then you can accidentally turn it on just by clicking the wrong button. And we're just like, look, like, I'm telling you, your clients are going to call you in the wintertime complaining about high electric bills, because I, knowing what I know, accidentally turned the strip heater on and walked away and didn't even know, because it's just a wrong push of the button. And so we're like, you got to fix this, because this is going to, you know, jack up prices and people are going to be mad.
My brother lives in Dallas, and his wife, to save energy, always turned the temperature down in the evening, and in the morning she turned it up 5 degrees for an hour. And the set point in his system was, if the system was off by 2 degrees, the strip heaters came on.
Yeah.
So he was in his house every morning with strip heaters, thinking he was saving energy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, other questions, just raise your hand or unmute yourself. Well, there goes Brett. It looks like Dale has another question.
They're not normally like this. Yeah, Dale.
Hey, Brett, can you talk about what your house insulation was like originally? I get probably it's like 2x4 walls or something. And then what did you do overall to insulate everything and air seal?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you know about the codes, it was built pretty much to like the IACC 2012. It was pretty much built to today's code. And it was really well done. You know, nothing too special, but, you know, pretty good to where I don't have, I mean, the air leakage was 4 air changes per hour, which is today's code. It was, you know, traditional fiberglass bats in the walls that were done right. You know, R40 or R38 of cellulose in the attic. No slab insulation, but, you know, foundation wall insulation. So it's not the best. And when I go to reside my house, I'm probably going to add in like a 1/2 inch of rigid insulation behind it just to boost it a little bit. But, you know, it just, you know, wasn't worth any really more work on the air sealing and insulation. I really lucked out. And older homes, you know, you would want to address that before you did a lot of these other things, because otherwise you'd be uncomfortable or just, you know, wasting a lot of energy that would be cheaper than, you know, solar. So.
And Judith, did you have another question? You've got your hand raised, but
No, I got to take it off.
Okay.
Brett, can I continue that question then? Have you worked on or worked with houses that were older, like from the 70s or 80s or whatever, that really, in order to do something, one of the real first things you should do is insulation. And I'd be interested in that kind of topic of, you know, how do you take an existing house, just any example like ours, it has brick veneer on some of it, so you can't really rebuild from the outside, but you could double stud wall from the inside, and other sections of the house I could do from the outside. And then I would want to know about, you know, what kind of options for should I do upstairs, like at where the roof and the walls meet, is the other kind of weak spot, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, us and our auditors get into all sorts of homes. My first home that I had was a 1926 2-story home in Rapids. And so the first thing we did was significant insulation and air sealing, and then change the mechanicals on it. So yeah, it's, I mean, that's why we recommend everybody get a home energy assessment done, a home energy score done. And then within that, work with the auditor to make the most informed decision for your project, because every project is different. Every house is different. Honestly, sometimes it just makes more sense to throw a advanced heat pump or geothermal system at it to save energy because it's so difficult or expensive. Or honestly, you can do certain things to a house and cause more damage from an air quality or durability standpoint by insulating and air sealing it incorrectly. And so that's a little bit scary. So we have seen some people where it's just like, let's do a couple things here and then focus on the mechanicals and, you know, save a lot of energy that way.
Well, Brett, did the gas company call up and say, don't leave us, don't leave us?
Gosh, they were so fast to get rid of me. I don't know why. Maybe they heard the news, but they were here within a minute to rip my gas meter out. I was stunned. They didn't even ask me why. They're just like, see you later. Took it away. So I don't have DTE, so maybe that's why. But so yeah, it was the only thing I did ask is I was like, can you shut the gas line that goes from the street into, you know, the meter, and so it's not pouring out potential gas leaks through my yard? And they're still scratching their head on that one. I'm like, that's your money. That's your gas wasting up into my yard. Like, shut it down. Like, I don't want it in there. And so we're still dealing with that part, but you know, that was a more unusual request, I think. So. And we were going to have a big party with cake, but you know, it was a pandemic, so it was kind of virtual.
Dale, did you have another question?
I was going to say, you might want to leave the same thing with the telephone pole for the electric. Even if you're not using the electric, some future owner might have some ideas about wanting to be hooked up to the grid. So leaving the pipe in can't really hurt that much.
Yeah, and I meant just more like, can it be, you know, shut down or capped to the street? But yeah.
So how about your windows? Did you replace your windows, and what did you do with that? Or they were already pretty good?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this house was done pretty good. You know, we had the Energy Star, low E, double pane windows. So, you know, that's good enough. And quite frankly, I'll tell you all this, you know, windows from just a cost of return on investment standpoint really don't make much sense to replace from an energy standpoint. From an aesthetic standpoint or a durability or water failure standpoint, then they do. You can repair old windows. My old house, they were terrible. So all we did was repair them and then put storms on the end. And, you know, we cut the air infiltration on them and gave them a little more life and didn't spend, you know, thousands of dollars. So again, it just depends on your situation, but we usually recommend to just, you know, not get new windows.
Janet, go ahead.
I have a question about the energy score, the DOE Home Energy Score. Do you have to hire somebody to come and do all that, or is there like an app or a spreadsheet or something where you can put in, you know, your utility bills, your square feet, and all that, you know, various pieces of information, and at least get the score, not necessarily the recommendations about what to change, but they could also ask, you know, if there are like questions about what kind of furnace you already have and stuff.
Yeah, so got to be a little careful, but there is something called the Home Energy Yardstick by the EPA, where it's a free online tool, and you need 12 months of utility data, your zip code, your square footage, the number of bedrooms in your house, and then it will tell you how your home is doing on a 1 through 10 rating system. It's not official, it's not a certification. It just kind of tells you how you're performing, and it gives you some tips, but it doesn't tell you why you're performing good or bad. So the score is done by a professional trained home energy assessor who does this for a living, knows what to look for, knows what the issues are. And so we highly encourage that. But absolutely, there are some do-it-yourself tools that you can use first to see if that's even necessary. But a lot of times, you know, unless you know what you're looking for, you can figure out, hey, I have a problem, but I don't know what the problem is or how to fix it. So,
Right, but you know whether to then actually talk to somebody about
Mhm.
fixing it.
Mhm.
But where do you find this home energy yardstick?
Yeah, so it's the EPA's home energy yardstick. And it's totally free, totally open source, and it can at least give you a, it can give you a good sense, because sometimes your utility bills, they're high, they're low. Utility bills are always too high. Nobody wants to pay them, but doesn't really tell you how well your home is performing. So this gives you a little more data to tell you.
Okay,
Brett,
great, thanks.
what's the typical cost of doing a home assessment and the blower test?
Yeah, it really depends on who you're working with and how many things you're asking them to do. But, we see it range anywhere from like $150 to $500.
I think in the past, at some point, DTE had offered that as a service for free. I'm not sure if that still is possible.
DTE and consumers and many other utilities do assessments. The problem is, especially if you're in a dual fuel area where you're on one and the other for electric and gas, they don't tell you the other person's information on what you need to do there. They don't really work well with each other. And then they're really more like light touch audits where they're still missing a lot of information. So concerns we've had in the past is that they've went in and looked at people's homes and people thought they had all the information they needed when they were completely underinformed. Not that they were misinformed, just underinformed. But yeah, I mean, in lack of anything else, it is free in many cases, and a good place to start if there's a cost issue for paying for an assessor. Thanks for sharing that link, Tom.
Well, we're getting close to 8 o'clock, but any last one or two last questions? Okay, well, hey, thank you very much, Brett. And just give us a little more information. I know Green Home Institute has a lot of programs. You mentioned your YouTube channel. Your website probably has a lot of good information. Could you just give us a little direction on that?
Yeah. I mean, greenhomeinstitute.org. Pretty much, if you click on our Learn page, you can find all of our YouTube open source videos that we do every month. We got a fantastic Michigan Zero Energy Conference coming up in partnership with Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association at noon on the 31st of March. So that's free. We do live webinars every Wednesday at noon. So that's free to watch. And you can find all that on our website.
Super. Yeah, a lot of good information. And I'd like to thank everybody for attending. And, let me mention that, a lot of you I know are already members of GLREA, and some of you maybe would like to look into it because we have a lot of educational and advocacy efforts and could use your support. In order to join GLREA, just go to our website, which is glrea.org. So we would appreciate the support. And let's see. Okay. Any other parting comments before we adjourn for today? Okay. Hey, again, thanks for everybody for coming.
Thank you all. Have a good night.